What up, guys? Dr. Vic here. You're listening to another episode on Health by Dr. Vic. Excited to have you guys here. We're going to be talking about a topic that may you may want to. It'll be interesting to see since, and I'm saying this because we're so dependent on this as a culture, as a society. When we think of getting energy, this is what we go to. It's our go-to, and there is so much to go back and forth on this. I'm going to share a couple things that is probably not going to give you the declarative answer, but it's going to help you understand just a little bit more in depth of when it comes to utilizing this. And this is caffeine, right? Look at society today. It's amazing to see how many people are dependent on coffee specifically. Some people are teas, and more in the Asian cultures and so forth, Eastern part of the world. Tea is the more dominating force. But in Western, and I'm not saying they don't do coffee in Eastern, but in the Western world, coffee is massive. I'm an Italian. First generation. If you want to be real specific, 1.5 generation. And it's one of those things where we do the 3 C's: coffee, carbs, and cigarettes, which I don't do any cigarettes. But I didn't have I didn't start drinking coffee until I was almost in chiropractic school around 23, 24. But I would have an espresso from time to time before that, but it wasn't much. But, seeing coffee was something in my upbringing. But you look at American culture, in America itself, there's just coffee all over the place. People need coffee. There's cups. Don't talk to me until I have my first cup of coffee. Moms will say, I need my coffee before I do anything, and it's just, and I'm not saying moms because I worked with a lot of moms in my business, but as a chiropractor. But it's one of those things where we're always looking for coffee as energy. And is it really the best source? And is it really something, right? Do we need caffeine? Some people will argue yes, some people will argue no. I love the whole debate on coffee. There is so many people that will say coffee is not good for you. It does not give the brain, like true energy. It doesn't activate things as much. It stresses the adrenals, some people say. It revs things up. But then there's other people who will say, wow, it helps with developing new brain tissue. It helps with, focus and concentration. It can help with diabetes or just helping with sugar levels and so many other things, right? And so who to believe? The research is both sides. I've never seen, I would say coffee is one of the most polarized research topic that I've ever seen. And, one of the things that you'll hear me say often on this podcast, and I've always educated my patients on this, is always follow where the money comes from. Who's funding the studies? If the people, and this is a rule I have when it comes to studies, this is the first thing I look at in studies. Whoever funds the study, if they benefit from that in any way, shape, or form, I will not take that study as anything accurate. It doesn't matter. Sometimes they'll say there's no financial interest in the study, but then I look who funded the study, and it can be like Big Pharma, right? A pharmaceutical company. And but I'm like, wow, they don't have any financial interest, but yet they're funding it. And then you go look, and it's like, well, they're going to benefit from that. I don't get how that's not a financial interest thing. Or it could be, hey, in the 1990s, they started doing the assault on fat. So skim milk started to come out, right? But they had all this excess fat from milk. So the government and others started to promote cheese and try to get people to start to consume more cheese because that's what they were utilizing that to create a product out of it because they had all this excess, right? And they started, maybe there were studies that came out there too. Sometimes nowadays in the society we live in, we use studies to try to promote something. And the way sometimes these studies are done, I question it. But anyhow, back to coffee. Or caffeine. So is caffeine something to utilize or something to not? And my rule of thumb is this. I like to keep things simple for you guys. I can share research, but then you're going to get way more misinformation, or not misinformation, too much information that's going to paralyze you. One of my other businesses I work on is I'm a business and spiritual mindset coach. So mindset and psychology and how the mind brain works, I teach a lot on in that element. And one of the things about that is we become paralyzed after 3 choices. Research shows it's up to 3. When we have more than 3 choices, we take some more time. This is why when you go to an ice cream shop, if you like ice cream and you go choose, there's 12, 15 different flavors, it takes you a minute to pick what you want because of too many choices. And so this happens here with research when it comes to coffee and all these different things. My thing is this. If you don't wake up in the morning And within the first 30 minutes, you drink your water. If you want some, I'll share some other things you can do for replacements, but drinking water, whatever that is, getting some fluids in you. And within 30 minutes, you don't feel like you're starting to wake up and you're starting to get the surge and want to get going for the day and feeling good. There's a lot of things that could be coming up, right? Sluggish digestive system, ate too late the night before, maybe had an alcohol beverage the night before, you didn't sleep that well, you didn't get good deep sleep or REM. Maybe your nervous system isn't working as well. That's where chiropractic comes in. There's so many things that I can point to, right? And there's endless stuff that can show up. And so the key thing is, well, what can I do to try to get away from utilizing coffee? Okay. So a lot of people that I've worked with, when it comes to coffee, and they need to have their coffee. I've worked with people one time, 12 shots of espresso per day. I was just like, how many? 12 shots? Holy cow. So to give you an example of how much caffeine that is, a shot of espresso has 80 milligrams of caffeine. 12 is 960. So 960 milligrams of caffeine. That is just astronomically high. And I was like, what happens when you don't have coffee or you don't have the espresso? Oh, I have foggy brain. I don't feel like I need it. I'm not myself. And I was like, okay, we're gonna have to work on this. And within a couple months, they're down to 3 shots. And then before you know it, it's more of, I like it just for the flavor. Now, for all full transparency, I do drink coffee. And right now, as this recording, I drink coffee pretty much daily. Now, I drink a decaf version of coffee. It is a Swiss water extract. It's 100% organic, single source origin, high elevation. These are some things that I look for. I usually recommend mycotoxin free or lab tested mycotoxin free coffee. There are some brands that do that because all coffee has some form of mycotoxins, low grade of them at least, and so it's one of these things you want to make sure that doesn't have that in there because mycotoxins are not good for our body at all. And so it's one of those things where I do decaf because I don't want the caffeine. Okay. And then I add mushrooms into my coffee. I have blended different types of mushrooms that I put in there, medicinal, and they will give me that little boost of energy if I need it. And it just helps give alkalinity to the coffee so it's not as acidic. And then it's just health benefits. I'm all about compound effects when it comes to health benefits. So what can I take that has multiple layers of health benefits in there? Like a coffee with mushrooms and all those things are going to be very healthy and very beneficial for my overall health. So that's something I will consume. Now, if I have something with caffeine, it is going to be a matcha. Originally, that's what I like to have, a green matcha. I've been doing matchas for probably 10 years, 12 years now. I would consider myself a matcha snob. And I will be doing a podcast on that for you guys because it's understanding what to look for. And then I'll share with my specific one that I've loved. I've been taking this now for about 2 years and I just love the product. It's a clean taste. It's pure matcha, it's organic and all that. I'll get into that another time on another podcast. So understanding though, like I said, so I drink decaf coffee. Some people say decaf isn't great, but Swiss water extract is a natural extraction of water. Not natural, but basically what Swiss water extract is, they put coffee beans in water and then take green coffee extract. Okay, this is how the beans are before they're roasted. And what they do is when they pour that into the coffee or the water, what it naturally does is it strips it binds the caffeine out of the beans, which is a really cool process. So it's not forcing anything. It's not a chemical reaction. We're not putting chemicals or solvents like some other brands will do that don't do that. So when they do decaf, they're stripping it with the chemicals. This is just it's already the natural caffeine that's found in green coffee bean extract. And so they just pour it in there and it will bind to that. Now, one thing that's negative about decaf is that when you do this process, it doesn't taste as strong as normal caffeinated. You're putting it in water, so you can dilute some of that flavor of the bean, which I've gotten used to. It's perfectly fine. But that's something that I do. So I don't get the caffeine side, but I still get all the nutrient benefits that come from coffee because one thing coffee has is antioxidants. There is a blend of antioxidants in there. Coffee helps with something called brain-derived BDNF. So brain-derived neurotropic factor. Okay. BDNF is basically a factor that helps rebuild brain tissue. Okay. It helps elevate our brain more, or create longevity for our brain. Chiropractic is one of the best that does that. But this is another thing that you can do to do that. And so I'm always looking for ways to optimize my brain in every way, shape, or form. That's why I take a plethora of things to do that. But one of them is I'll incorporate coffee. There's times I'll have matcha. There's seasons where I'll go 6 months, usually on average, of just pure matcha every morning with no coffee. It's just cycles that I go through and where my body is and what do I feel like I need. And this is a whole different concept than headstrong, where we think, oh, I'm doing this because of this, rather than I'm doing this because I feel like I need to. Not because I think it's going to be great or benefits or that my body is telling me, or I have a feeling that's pulling me. My intuition's telling me I need to be doing this right now. And that's what kind of guides me when it comes to those things. So when you're looking at, okay, maybe you're like, okay, great, I would love to get off coffee. I just don't know how. And I've tried other things. It just doesn't work. Well, here's a simple replacement that you can do for coffee. Anyone I've ever worked with, this is something that I always have them do. First things first, first thing in the morning, you take about, depending on your size of an individual, I usually recommend a liter. Get as much as you can. A liter for me is not a lot. I could chug a liter within, 10 to 15 seconds and I'm done and I'm good, for a little bit. For some people, a liter may be a lot of water. What I recommend is you get nice, clean, filtered water, and you take a whole lemon and squeeze that into the water. Okay. There is minerals and electrolytes that you're putting into the water. Okay. It's acidic when you first put the lemon in there, but when it gets into the liver and processes, it turns alkalizing. So alkalizing for the body. Very, very nutritious. It helps with, blood, helps the mucus layers and our nasal passages and so forth. So there's a lot of benefits what lemon does. But what it'll do with the electrolytes and so forth is it wakes up the body's system. And when you do, you'll feel a little bit more energized from that. Now, for some, I recommend a pinch of cayenne pepper, organic on all this stuff. And the reason why is cayenne pepper is a little spicy. It won't be that spicy. Some people say cayenne pepper and lemon and water. Oh my goodness. But there is an element to cayenne pepper that what it does is it helps stimulate blood circulation. And the more blood flowing with what you're doing is going to wake you up more. And so it'll help you give that little zest of energy. And then you don't become so dependent on coffee, right? Or caffeine, any source of caffeine, that is. And so I don't make this about coffee. So caffeine. And so what ends up happening then is when you're able to look at your caffeine intake, this will give you a general idea then of what is actually within the range that you're going to start minimizing, in other words. So just to give you an example of, coffee itself. So if you do a drip type coffee, that's 120 milligrams per cup, per serving. Espresso is smaller. It's only 80 milligrams, right? So some people say, well, espresso is a lot stronger. Well, if you go by volume, yeah, it is. But if you just go by serving size, no, it's not. But espresso is actually more energizing for you than drip coffee. And the reason why is because espresso is steam going through the beans or the grounds. And what happens is that not only does it extract the caffeine, but it also pulls amino acids out from the bean. And those amino acids mixed with the caffeine give you a higher feeling of energy. Okay. It's a little cleaner. I wouldn't say it's healthy. I guess you can make an argument that it's healthier. I only do espresso. I don't do, sometimes I'll do an espresso longo, which is like a cup of coffee, almost half a cup. But it's still using the steam process rather than the drip. And so when you're looking at all this, and again, I'll have a whole episode on coffee, you're understanding the depths of it. But today I just wanted to give you one simple tool that you can do to replace that. Coffee is by doing cayenne pepper with lemon. Now you can add a little honey if you want a little bit of sugar. I think honey is great to have. It's a superfood. Just make sure it's local, raw, unfiltered. It's great to blend in with that. It just gives a little bit of that sweetness. Again, there's a lot of benefits to honey and so many things of what it does. So it's something that you can take in with it. But just doing a little bit of, hot lemon water and a little bit of cayenne pepper and honey can supercharge your day. It literally can. I did this for years. I didn't want to get hooked on so much coffee after I came out of chiropractic school. I only drank coffee because I needed more, and I needed that like mental, like that buzz in my head to just study as fast as I can. And then afterwards, I was like, I gotta break down from this. I can't be used to this. So I would just do hot lemon water, cayenne pepper, and a little bit of honey, and that would give me the boost that I needed. So it's one of these things that you can just replace and do that can really help benefit you so much in your life and get away from caffeine. And I truly believe it's going to be a process for your body to work out of this because it's so used to having that stimulant every morning, right? A lot of people wake up first thing in the morning, they make coffee before they even brush their teeth. And it's one of those things that you want to really understand this concept that it can be is to allow you to break away from this chain because we are so hooked on coffee as a society. And what scares me the most is I was doing not corporate wellness. I was speaking on mindfulness at a high school, and it was in the summer. So I had different groups of individuals I was working with. Some were incoming freshmen, some were juniors and seniors, and some were AP juniors. I think AP juniors and seniors. We did like a 1 week course instead of two. And what blew my mind was how much they're dependent on coffee is. When I was speaking and talking, I had a 3 hour window with them and I was just cranking away. And they were like, I had like a mason jar and it had green stuff in there, which was a matcha, just the way I blended it and made it. And I remember they asked, they go, where do you get energy from? You are so energetic. And I'm like, I'm just like this. I take care of my health and this is a byproduct of it. And they're like, what are you drinking there? I'm like, that's called matcha. And they're like, what is that? This is back in 2018. So matcha wasn't as popular. It was starting to get popular. It wasn't as popular as it is now. And they were like, she's like, I don't know how that tea. I have to have 3 cups of coffee, 2 cups of coffee a day in order to just to function and keep up with my day. And I was like, how much? I'm like, how old are you? If you don't mind me asking. She's like, I'm 17. I was like, wow. That's a huge concern for me from a neurodevelopment standpoint and so much more. What are we doing to their nervous system? What are we doing to their metabolic systems? How are we conditioning that? So easy way to do it, hot lemon water, cayenne pepper, and a little bit of honey. You got to do this continually for some time. You may have to have your coffee still with it, and that's fine. Keep the same dosage. So here's what you do. You keep the same of what you're drinking, whatever that caffeine is, tea, coffee, whatever that may be. You keep it the same. Just add in the water. Okay. And then eventually after like a week, you can even go 2 weeks if you want. Then you start to lower your dose by a quarter. Then you lower it down by half the week after. Then after that week, you go down to three-fourths less, or a quarter of whatever you used to take. And then after that, you minimize out. So it takes about a month or two. We want to slowly work this out of the system. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. So a lot of time. We help the body adapt to this because your body's been used to it. So we got to work itself out. And then before you know it, 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, you'll be like, I haven't had coffee in I don't know how long. I remember, there's been times I was like, I have to have my tea because I like to have that's why I cycle out of different stuff because I like to have my antioxidants. But what was interesting is in that process, I ended up to utilize where I was like, man, I haven't had caffeine in like 2 years. And I was like, wow, it's been a long time. And then I remember I had I was out with my wife and I was like, let me have a latte. And I was just like, whoa, I forgot the hit it has because you haven't had caffeine for so long. So, and there's this whole thing about, fast metabolisms with caffeine and slow metabolisms with caffeine. You can Google those things. It just basically means that those who are fast metabolizers that they get the jitters from coffee. Slow metabolizers, they take a longer time to break down coffee. So they can have 1 cup and they can last them a whole entire day. So knowing that about yourself is also a big game changer also. But I hope this helps. This is just the beginning of coffee. You'll be here, or caffeine. You'll be hearing me bring up more topics on this as we dive into different elements of it, and what I use, what I recommend, and so forth. But if you like this episode, do me a favor. We just got started, so please subscribe. Don't miss another episode. We do 1 a week. And if you found this inspirational, or you found some good insight in here, pay it forward by sharing with just one person. Just share it with one person. And also, if you like the episode, share and like on whatever app, wherever you're listening to this from. If you can share a review, please do. It gets the word out there more. I want to appreciate you for your time, and I hope you have an amazing day, and I look forward to connecting with you on our next episode. Have a blessed one.